Day 59. Nancy Guthrie is still gone, and the man running the show might have just perjured himself. He's cornered. We ain't at the start of this mess. We're way past the part where an 84-year-old lady vanishes into thin air. One Sunday night she's home, then she's just a memory while her family waits for a phone call that ain't ever gonna ring. Now we're at the part with the sheriff. He's been standing at that mic for 2 months playing the hero. He tells the cameras there ain't no suspects, but his own deputies are ready to throw him to the wolves. Every single one. 241 deputies voted, and not a single soul wants him around. That hammer dropped on March 24th. That same week, the Board of Supervisors dug up an old-school Arizona law to force Nanos to talk under oath. His own union says his leadership is a straight-up threat to the public. They don't trust him with a badge anymore. A legal pro told the national news that the feds have had a name for weeks. The FBI is playing a different game. The feds and the sheriff got 2 different scripts. Both can't be right, and Nancy is still out there in the dark. You gotta see the whole board to understand what's coming next. Here's the raw truth of the matter. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, mother to the NBC anchor Savannah Guthrie, just an old lady in her twilight years. Last seen January 31st. Her son-in-law dropped her at her place in the Catalina foothills north of Tucson. 4 hours later, her doorbell camera goes pitch black. There was blood on the porch, and it belonged to her. Her pacemaker, the only thing keeping her heart in rhythm, stopped sending signals to her phone. Then, nothing but silence. No bag packed, no meds taken, just gone. The family figured it out when she missed a Sunday church Zoom call. The sheriff's department and the feds teamed up that Monday. The phone started ringing off the hook immediately. 13,000 tips in the first 2 weeks. 100 federal agents were out there pounding the pavement for her. Some retired FBI heavy hitter told Newsweek this case is burning hot. It's the furthest thing from a cold case. Still, no cuffs and no names. 59 days of empty promises. There's only one question that really matters now. If the FBI has a target, why are they keeping their mouths shut? What's stopping them from telling the truth? Does the answer have something to do with the man standing in front of those cameras every day? There ain't an easy answer, but the trail is getting warmer. Stick around, 'cause this gets real ugly real fast. If you're tracking this case, stay tuned for every update. This story's got a long way to go. First, you gotta look at Chris Nanos. His resume says he's been on the job for 40 years. Claims he was with El Paso PD from 1976 to 1984, 8 long years on the force. That's the number he sold to the voters to get that office. That's the story he told everyone. It's the same bio on the website while he's pretending to lead the hunt for Nancy Guthrie, but it's all lies. El Paso records tell a different story. They say he didn't even start when he claimed. The numbers don't add up. He walked away on August 3rd, 1982. That wasn't some long-haul career and sure wasn't a promotion. He quit before they could fire his heart. It's the old jump before you're pushed routine. He chose to walk. 8 suspensions in 5 years. Excessive force, illegal gambling off duty, being a jerk to his superiors, and being late. One guy, Carlos Reyes, said Nanos kicked and beat him in the head, left the poor guy in a hospital bed. Assault charges were filed. A grand jury didn't pull the trigger on an indictment, but the record is right there. For 40 years, that dirt stayed buried. Nobody bothered to look under the rug until now. When the sheriff's office got called out, they said it was just a typo, just some admin mistake, nothing more. They said it wasn't a lie, just bad paperwork. That might have worked until that deposition in December 2025. They asked him under oath if he'd ever been suspended. He had a choice to make right then and there. He looked him in the eye and said no. Claimed no discipline ever reached the level of a suspension. Ever. But those El Paso files show 8 separate hits in 5 years. That ain't a typo. That's a pattern. You can't lie that way when the receipts are already on the table. Matt Hines has seen every page. Hines called that sworn testimony a total fraud. And this is where the heat turns up on the sheriff. This ain't just about some old history anymore. This is about the search for Nancy happening right now. Hines ain't a political rival. He's the vice chair of the board. He's the guy who watches the sheriff. He's officially pushed the attorney general to take the case. It's coming to a head. They're looking at hitting the DOJ with perjury charges. March 24th, the board didn't blink and voted to invoke a territorial-era Arizona law that forces the sheriff to hand over sworn reports on his department's mess. If he doesn't play ball, he's out of a job. That same afternoon, the Pima County Deputies Union threw down the gauntlet. That union's got over 300 boots on the ground right under Nanos' own department. 241 guys voted, they had zero confidence and wanted him out. Not a single soul voted to keep him around. The union boss, Sergeant Aaron Cross, told the bigwigs that Nanos burned every bridge he had with his men and the folks. He ain't gonna walk away on his own, so Cross told him to use every hammer they got to kick him to the curb. The department's answer? Nanos is digging in his heels. He ain't quitting. But here's the part that connects his reputation rot right to the hunt for Nancy Guthrie. I'm talking about a guy with direct working knowledge of Fed kidnapping cases who looked at this mess and found a conclusion way nastier. He ain't some internet sleuth or a washed-up detective trying to move copies of a book. Chad D. Cummings is a legal heavy hitter with a federal background who spoke in depth with the Mirror US about how this case actually grinds. He knows how the FBI and local heat cut up the pie in these high-stakes cases. That's what this mess requires. Not general true crime talk, but federal operational procedures. His take is this: the FBI has not been sharing everything with the Pima County Sheriff's Department. It ain't about being lazy. It's a deliberate move about who holds the cards and when. There's a retired agent named Jennifer Coffindaffer who told Newsweek this case ain't anywhere near cold. She spent years inside the bureau. She knows when a case is actually humming versus when it just looks active to the public. She says 100 agents and analysts are grinding on this. She had plenty to say about the masked figure on the doorbell cam who approached that front door in the dead of night on February 1st. She says he's a walk-in fingerprint. The eyebrows, the mustache, the gait, even the pinky ring. The feds got it all on video. They're the ones who released the footage. That hiker pack is a black 25-liter Ozark Trail sold exclusively through Walmart. They slapped Nancy Guthrie right on their kidnapping and missing persons most wanted list. They bumped the reward to $100,000 and got 13,000 tips those first 2 weeks. An identifiable face, 100 agents, and 59 days. Sheriff Nanos has stood at that podium week after week and told us they got no suspect. Cummings says, and it was reported by a single credentialed outlet, but not confirmed by the feds, that the FBI caught their man weeks ago. They aren't waiting for a lead. They're building an ironclad federal case. Grand jury moves slow. Sealed indictments gotta be perfect. And the reason the sheriff keeps lying about having no suspect ain't to protect anyone. It's because the FBI hasn't told him. That's the real kicker. This whole frame explains every contradiction we've seen. It's why 100 agents are working while the local sheriff says they've got nothing. It's why Nanos keeps walking back his own words, as with the Google date or those gloves. The neighbor they shook down in Rio Rico, then let go. It's a pattern, a detail. Surfaces, draws a crowd, then gets buried before it leads anywhere. That's what Cummings described to the Mirror US as optics. Give the press a development that sounds significant. Wait for the news cycle to reset. But look at the layer underneath, a detail most coverage has not stopped on long enough. Someone in Arizona was hunting for Nancy's home address in June of 2025. That's 8 months before she vanished. They came back in November and December to run image searches for maps and pictures of the house. They scoped the layout and the way in. They scoped the approach and between. December 13th and the 20th, someone in Tucson was looking up Savannah Guthrie's yearly paycheck. This wasn't some curious neighbor. This is a cold-blooded timeline of a hunter closing in. They got the address, they scoped the property, they knew exactly how much the family was worth. On the night of January 31st, they acted on 8 months of prep and walked right up to an 84-year-old woman who could. She'd struggled to grab her mail on a clear day. But every click starts with tech. Every piece of tech hits a wire. Every wire has a digital address. With a judge's pen, 100 agents can hunt that ghost. It stays put. It rots in a server log forever. If the feds have that, they got more than a masked face. They got a digital soul. Here is what's cold and hard. They found DNA on Nancy Guthrie's dirt. That blood ain't hers or anyone she loves. They got the guy on tape, too. He's got marks you can't miss. An old pro says he's a walking target. They tracked his searches back 8 months before the grab. 100 agents are digging. A legal shark is talking now. It ain't official from the Bureau, but listen, the sheriff and the feds won't say a word. You need to know why. Chad Cummings told the Mirror that the feds tagged this guy weeks ago. They're building a federal case now. A grand jury's probably voting. Secret charges are waiting. The sheriff's office is in the dark for safety. The feds don't trust them. This means every time Nanos talks, he's only telling the tiniest piece of the truth. Then things get ugly. The university's news crew reported something dark. The main station tracking the local cops says Nanos tried to cut the Bureau off. They reported that the sheriff allegedly kept the feds away from the physical proof. Nobody else has backed that up yet, but nobody has called it a lie either. The feds ain't saying it's fake. They ain't saying it's real. They're just quiet. With this many agents on the clock, that kind of silence is a weapon. If you're just joining this nightmare, hit the links below. Stick around. We track every lead the second it hits. This game ain't anywhere near finished. There's no doubt he exists. The proof is there. The real mystery is January. What happened 3 weeks before she vanished? The feds have a Tuesday night circled. Not February 1st. An earlier night that Google flagged, then tried to hide. Her family named the exact hour. The sheriff just says something went down. Before the feds asked for data, they were asking about a Sunday night. January 11th. The one night the news keeps missing. Not the night she went gone. Most reports talk about Google's backtrack. That's just the surface story. There's a detail buried deep that the feds won't talk about. It's the proof that this date wasn't just some computer glitch. On March 21st, the family begged the town for help again. They gave dates: January 31st, February 1st, and one more, late on January 11th. You don't get that precise by hoping someone remembers. That kind of math comes from a hard drive. A device pinged near that house at that exact hour. They didn't guess. Sheriff Nanos admitted it on March 23rd. The data was there. He said something happened January 11th when the feds crunched the numbers. He wouldn't say what tool they used or what they found. He said something occurred and stopped. Here's the real timeline. When the feds grabbed the doorbell footage from Nancy's house, they called Google. They found a shot of the guy without his gear. No pack, no holster. Google told the cops that image came from January 11th. The family heard it. The feds started knocking on doors within 2 miles. They looked for more footage from that night, but the neighbors had nothing. Then Google pulled the plug. They told the feds they couldn't nail that image to January 11th or any specific day. Nanos backed them up. He told the press that Google threw that date out as a maybe, then did an about-face. Usually, that kills January 11th as a lead. But it didn't. This case has teeth. The family's March 21st statement went out way after Google folded. They kept that date and time in there anyway. So the date matters for reasons beyond some wonky metadata. Something else the feds pulled off those machines is doing the heavy lifting. Nanos made it clear Google's timestamp wasn't the source. There's a deeper rot here. Only one thing makes sense: a cell tower ping, a plate reader hit, or some glitch in a utility box. Some digital footprint put a car or a phone right by Nancy Guthrie's place that night in January, regardless of cameras. The FBI's got the receipt. Nanos knows the category, but they're both playing it close to the vest. January 11th was a dress rehearsal, some predator out there without his gear, just feeling out the neighborhood. No bag, no gun, just a man walking the grounds 3 weeks before the snatching. He was taking his time. Checking his views, the cameras, the layout stuff he'd already searched online 8 months prior. He was doing his homework. CNN confirmed the feds think he didn't just show up once. He'd been creeping around that property plenty before February 1st. January 11th is almost a lock for one of those visits. It means he'd already stood on that porch. That wasn't the first time he looked at her door, and it wasn't the first time he messed up. Stick with us as we track this animal. Our team will be right here when the news breaks. You gotta look back another 8 months, because January 11th ain't where this horror show started. The digital breadcrumbs the feds are following actually start back in June of 2025. That's when some ghoul in Arizona first looked up Nancy Guthrie's house. Not her famous kid, not some news clip. The actual street address of an 84-year-old woman in Tucson. He was hunting her specifically. Same search popped up again late that year. He was obsessed, circling back to that address over and over. Then came the pictures. He was looking at the dirt, the roof, the maps, trying to see the world through her windows. Feds and the legal types see this and call it what it is, reconnaissance. He was planning a hit. Mid-December, someone in Tucson started looking up what Savannah Guthrie pulls in every year at her news gig. They wanted to know her salary. When you put that next to the address searches, the motive gets real dark. This wasn't some random break-in that went sideways. This wasn't a guy just picking a house on a whim. He picked Nancy by name. He found her spot, studied the exits, and checked her kid's bank account. He did all that before 2025 even ended. Every click came from a device tied to a real place. Every search left a digital stain. And those stains don't just wash away with time. Physical evidence rots. Witnesses forget. But server logs, they just sit there, waiting to testify. Every search hits an IP address, and every address leads to a door. The math is simple and brutal. Give 100 federal agents the legal green light, and they'll follow that wire right to the source. This is where the digital world slams into the physical stuff. It's bad news for anyone hoping this was a ghost. The DNA from Nancy's yard didn't hit on anyone in the big FBI database, 19 million names and 0 matches. So the guy didn't have a record, no cuffs, no prints, no DNA on file when they ran the sample. But the feds didn't just pack it in. They went looking in places where people pay to find their roots. They hit the private databases, places where millions of regular folks send their spit to find out where they came from. It's a gold mine for the Bureau, and it's why the guy in the bushes should be looking over his shoulder. See, the suspect didn't even have to sign up for those sites himself. That's the beauty of it. All it takes is a brother, a sister, or a cousin who wanted to see their family tree 3 years ago. Just one relative looking for their history creates a trap. They leave a mark the feds can follow. The FBI takes that mystery DNA, uploads it, and starts building a map of the guy's bloodline. They match that tree against the digital trail and the physical facts. They're closing the circle. The searches, the timing, the location, everything starts to point at one single person. Every detail peels away a layer of safety. The wall is closing in on him. Take a hard look at that face on the doorbell cam. That is exactly how they finally nailed the Golden State Killer after 4 decades of waiting for a slip-up. But this Nancy Guthrie job? The trail ain't cold. We got fresh digital breadcrumbs and DNA that hasn't degraded one bit. The scent is still strong. The video quality is so sharp it is scary. A retired Fed from the Bureau could see every line on the guy's face. He was not just some grainy blur. We ain't just looking at a ghost in a mask. You can see his real self right through those eye holes. He has got features you do not forget. Still, no cuffs have clicked. Nobody has been named. There are these ransom notes floating around that Savannah Guthrie mentioned to the press. She thinks 2 of them are the real deal, but they haven't led to a single word from the monster who took her mother. Just dead silence. The feds are playing it close to the vest. They won't say if those letters are legit or just some sick prank. They are keeping us in the dark. Only guy in a cell right now is some lowlife in Los Angeles named Derek Kella. He tried to score a payday with a fake ransom demand. He sent a text minutes after the family went public, trying to profit off their nightmare. He is in court, but he ain't the kidnapper. The real devil is still out there. The heat on Sheriff Nanos is cranking up right alongside the actual hunt. You cannot separate the politics from the blood. It is all connected. One of the county bigwigs is already talking about federal law breaking tied to Nanos' sworn words. The guy is backed into a corner. There is a recall brewing. They need over 122,000 signatures by July 10th to put his neck on the line. People are fed up. The sheriff's own guys already gave their verdict. 241-0. Not a single man in uniform stands behind him. He is on an island. Meanwhile, the FBI is sitting on a digital trail that started 8 months before Nancy even disappeared. Someone was watching her for a long time. And that DNA? It is probably already climbing up some family tree toward a specific name. This federal silence isn't because they are empty-handed. It is the opposite. It is loud. They aren't saying they haven't found their man. They are just waiting to strike. They aren't saying the genetic work came up dry. They aren't saying they haven't pinned down that IP address yet. The trap is being set. They are staying quiet about those searches from June 2025. Every day of this silence eats at the family. It is a heavy, suffocating weight. The reward money is just sitting there. The sheriff is fighting for his life. This silence, that is a move they are making on purpose. This whole thing has changed. It ain't about whether the Bureau knows who took her anymore. They have likely already got the name. Between the hard evidence and the massive federal muscle on this case, everything is pointing at one door, one single target. Now, the only question is what the hell they are waiting for, and if the answer comes too late for Nancy, time is the enemy. There is a retired Fed named Jennifer Coffindaffer. She has seen more than her fair share of darkness in this line of work. She has spent more time inside actual kidnapping cases than most folks spend reading the morning paper. She knows how these monsters think. She ain't just some talking head on the news. She was the one running the show on the ground. She has got dirt under her nails. She knows what it looks like when 100 agents are hunting a lead. She knows exactly what that kind of heat produces. When Newsweek caught up with her in early March, she did not mince words. She called this case red hot. It is burning a hole in their pockets. Then she dropped a detail about the guy on that doorbell cam that most people just walked right past. It is the key to the whole thing. She did not say he might be found. She said he is very identifiable. Those words weren't an accident. They are a promise. Look at his eyebrows, the mustache, that pinky ring, the way he walks across that porch so calm, as if he owns the place. He looks as though he had been there before. 100 agents have been grinding on this for nearly 2 months now. They are closing in. They got the tape. They got the DNA. They got the digital trail going back to June of 2025. The paper trail is a mile long. A veteran Fed says that partial face is a dead giveaway. This ain't a case without leads. Far from it. They have everything they need. These leads are being handled with surgical precision. Here is the hard truth we know for a fact from the top brass. Whether it is Pima County or the news crews with the inside scoop, one thing is certain, the Bureau got that doorbell footage. They have the masked creep on camera at Nancy's place on the morning of February 1st. He did not know he was being watched. He is a male, standing maybe 5'9" or 5'10". Average build with a black mustache peeking out from that mask. You can see the pinky ring plain as day. That backpack? It is a 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack sold only at Walmart. A common item for a killer. The DNA they found does not belong to Nancy or her kin. It did not pop in the national database either. He is a ghost in the system. Now they are digging through family trees and private databases. They are tracking a digital trail that started way before the crime even happened. He was looking up addresses and checking Savannah's salary. Fox News confirmed it, and the feds haven't said a word to the contrary. This task force is massive. We are talking up to 100 agents and analysts. They are throwing everything they have at this guy. They even got 4 detectives and a sergeant from Pima County camped out at the Bureau's Tucson office. No one is sleeping until this is over. There is plenty more being whispered by people who know, but the feds and the local sheriff haven't put their stamp on it yet. Especially when it comes to who they are really looking at right now. The names are out there, just waiting for the hammer to drop. The feds or the Pima sheriff, you deserve to know the truth about the friction. Legal pro Chad Cummings telling the Mirror US that the FBI likely pegged their guy weeks ago and they're building a cage right now. This grind takes time. Grand juries, secret papers, and making sure the charges actually stick. One slip and he walks. Building a case that won't crumble at trial is slow. The way they drop info is the real tell. Updates are timed to kill the heat from critics. They sound big but lead to a brick wall. It's calculated control. Every update is managed theater. Sheriff might not be lying through his teeth, though. He's just out of the loop. Maybe the feds just don't trust him with the truth, or they're worried about what he'd do with it. Arizona public media has been watching these cops for decades, and they're reporting a mess. Word is Nanos supposedly shut the feds out of the evidence locker during the hunt. Bad blood runs deep. That claim comes from one solid source. Nobody's confirmed it. Nobody's called it a lie either. The feds ain't talking. The sheriff ain't talking. They're both keeping their mouths shut for now. That dead air is the real story. DNA tech moves fast and quiet. Don't mean they're stuck. It means they're hunting. Here is what genealogy can do in a case as heavy as this one. Silence ain't no sign of failure. If the cop database is dry, they don't quit. They take that DNA and go public with it. They hit the consumer sites where millions of regular folks put their spit in a tube. Not the private cop files, but Ancestry, GED Match, and Family Tree. Millions of names waiting to be searched. Don't need the killer's spit. Just one relative, a brother or a dad, who was curious about their past. A cousin who wanted to see their roots at any point in the last decade. That's all the blood they need. They build that family tree backwards. They pin names to the dirt and the local streets. They cross-reference every name with a map. They're closing the distance every single hour. They toss out anyone who doesn't fit the porch camera. Wrong height, wrong age, wrong spot on that Sunday night. They squeeze the list until it finally breaks. Then they got a name. Just one name. And they're breathing down his neck right now. That's how they nailed the Golden State Freak after 40 years. Nancy ain't got 40 years. Nancy's DNA ain't ancient. They scraped it off her front porch back in February. If the feds are quiet, they aren't waiting for a break. They're waiting for a judge to sign. A signed warrant or a secret indictment. A prosecutor ready to pull the trigger on this guy. Pass this along if you're following Nancy's story. The heat needs to stay high on the badge. The family wants the pressure on. Cold Case Files USA will be here when the news breaks. The one question no press conference touches, what's Nancy Guthrie's condition right now? Her family thinks she might be gone, but they're white-knuckling hope. Hope is a jagged pill. Savannah told the news in February that she's out there. She needs her meds. She needs home. Whoever has her needs to reach out, because the family is ready to listen. They just want her back. Those words were said when this was 2 weeks old. Now it's 59 days, and time is a killer. Zero proof she's drawn a breath. Snatched on a Sunday right after dinner with Annie. Her back was in such pain, she barely left the house for months. Every step was agony. Walking to the mailbox was a struggle. She was in her house clothes, no shoes on her feet. No meds, no pills, nothing to keep her heart steady. She wouldn't leave on her own. Not the heart monitor, nothing. 59 nights out in the dark. That's the woman in the middle of this mess. The clock is the enemy now. She ain't a headline or a case number. She was a grandma playing games with kids that evening. Dropped off, light on, no clue he'd been watching her door for a year, just waiting for his moment. FBI says it's active. $100,000 from the Bureau and $1 million from the family is waiting. People in Tucson are sitting on the truth. A car out of place in January. A specific backpack. A guy with a pinky ring and a careful way of moving through. He wasn't from that neighborhood. The Guthries were blunt about it in March. Someone in this town is holding the answer. They don't need a full confession. Just one small detail. A detail that connects to what the feds already have. The piece that turns a file into handcuffs. The sheriff, the guy acting as the public face, is currently fighting just to keep his badge. His own deputies don't trust him. The county supervisors are forcing him to testify under a legal oath. A recall is coming. No matter what happens to Chris Nanos, Nancy Guthrie is still gone. The FBI has been quiet for weeks, but they're moving on a case one agent called Red Hot. If you know anything about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, dial 1-800-CALL-FBI. The family is waiting. The feds are waiting. That digital trail left 8 months before the hit is still sitting on a server log somewhere. It's pointing right at a specific name. It hasn't vanished. Neither has this case. Things like this don't just happen out of nowhere. The more you study the prep and the surveillance, the more you see how surgical it was. It reveals the holes in the systems we trust. We aren't as safe as we think. This case teaches a hard truth about security that the suspect knew before any homeowner asked. A Wi-Fi camera is only as good as the internet. If the connection dies, you're blind. The FBI is checking if a jammer killed the internet on Nancy's block that night. Multiple neighbors told reporters their Ring histories had big gaps right when she was taken. You can see a device with an antenna in the suspect's pocket on the porch footage. The feds won't say if it was a jammer. If it was, every camera nearby went dark. The lesson is simple. Get a backup camera that records to a local card, not the cloud. Local storage keeps rolling when the network dies. It doesn't care if the internet is jammed. It's not a tech fix. It's a backup that survives when someone plans around your setup. That's the redundancy that catches the person who accounted for everything else you had. Lesson 2 is about the friction between local cops and federal agents in big kidnappings. Those relationships matter. When the FBI takes point, they don't have to share a thing. They run their own show. Grand jury secrets are sealed. No local deputy gets a look. Federal tools like DNA data and private tech records don't just flow to the county level. Subpoenas to tech giants stay with the feds. This isn't a glitch in the system. It's a feature meant to make a federal case stick. It protects the integrity of the trial, but it looks messy when a sheriff talks while the feds are doing something else. That disconnect isn't a failure. If you know the game, you know how to read the silence. When the FBI stops talking, it doesn't mean they're stuck. It usually means they're closing in. The third lesson is the science. Genetic genealogy changed the hunt in ways most folks don't grasp. The math of investigation is different now. The Golden State Killer hid for 40 years. They found him because a distant cousin uploaded DNA to a website, not the killer himself. Just a relative looking for family history. They didn't know they were handing over a predator. They didn't have to know. The link is in the blood, and biology doesn't do deals. In Nancy's case, DNA from her yacht sending match any of the 19 million criminals on record. But that database is just the start. What comes next is slow, steady, and never fails. It's got a history of working. Finally, this case is about the power of paying attention. The Guthries said it in March. Someone in Tucson is holding a detail they think is minor, not a witness to the grab. Just someone who saw a car parked at a weird hour, or saw a man walking through a neighborhood with a cold, deliberate kind of focus. They didn't think much of it in January, but it's been haunting them every day since. That person is out there. The feds know it. The family knows it. They're waiting. If you're the one watching this, dial 1-800-CALL-FBI. No detail is too small. Someone's sweating. Let investigators figure out the meaning. We started with 2 lying stories and 59 days of dead air. It's too quiet. The feds got the proof. The sheriff's clawing to save his badge. Between a locked file and a podium in Tucson, the truth about Nancy Guthrie is locked in a head that ain't ready to talk. Not yet, anyway. Cold Case Files USA tracks every break the second it hits. Keep your eyes on this. Stay ready because this thing moves fast. If you've been here from the start, spread the word, don't let her go. The family's begging you not to look away. We ain't blinking, no shoes, no meds, just gone. And Nancy Guthrie's still missing on day 59. The clock keeps ticking.